Will AI take your job in business? That's the topic we're going to cover today. In the aftermath of COVID, we saw in the workforce here in the United States and worldwide this thing called the Great Resignation. People decided that they didn't want to work in the same manner that they had been working, going into the office. It made working from home a lot more prevalent, and we're still feeling the effects today. And what I think is going to happen with AI coming into the forefront, it's already here, is that we're not going to see a great resignation. We're going to see a great replacement. We're going to see a great replacement of people who do not adapt and do not embrace this technology, and they're going to be replaced not outright by the technology, but the people who make the technology and the people who leverage the technology. Now, is this right or wrong? That's not the issue. It's just happening. I have my own opinions on it. We see even right now, writers in Hollywood are on strike because they feel like their intellectual property is being used to feed these language models like ChatGPT and other things. Artists and creatives are seeing their work extrapolated in order to inform the AI. That's even happened to me. I've had actual students of mine in my own marketing academy say, Mike, we've been using ChatGPT and I asked it to impersonate you and tell me what you would say, and the feedback that Mike Kim, the copywriter or the marketing expert, would give me on this page. They've literally done that. I don't know how I feel about that. I feel a little weird about it. And so I can certainly understand, especially if you're a creative professional, how you'd be really up in arms about this technology. But the reality is that technology isn't just coming, it's here and it's being quickly adopted in the mainstream workforce, in mainstream culture. And so talking about whether it's right or not is not actually going to move the ball down the field. I'm a very practical person, and I feel like in this session, I just want to talk about some things to encourage you on how to navigate this current situation that we're in the changes that happen. And I know it can be scary. I know that it can be a little rattling and jarring, right? There's an opportunity here to learn, and there's an opportunity here to accelerate, and there's even an opportunity to reposition yourself in the market. Let me give you an example. I was growing up in junior high. One of my favorite classes, believe it or not, we had a class on typing. We learned how to type on a QWERTY keyboard, QWERTY, the standard keyboards that we all use today. Our school district decided that since this technology, computers, they were going to be at the forefront of the next generation, they had to equip us as students, I'm really glad they did, on how to type. And I still remember my teacher's name. Her name was Mrs. Horvath. She was one of the administrators of the school, and she taught this class. She's taught basically secretarial work as a student. So we had these really old computers with the green and black screens like the Matrix, and these letters would fall from the top of the monitor, and we had to match those. We had to type those letters before the letter hit the bottom of the screen. And they gamified it. They gamified learning typing. Before the word gamification became as mainstream as it is today, that's what my school had done. They gamified learning typing. It was a lot of fun. I really liked the class because it felt like playing a video game. I was like, right? And yet on other days, once we learned how to type, because they didn't have enough machines for every kid in the school, we would have typewriters. We'd literally sit at typewriters and type things with physical pieces of paper. Now, I'm dating myself a little bit. That's wild, right? It's kind of crazy. I didn't actually send my first email. The first email I ever sent in my life was my freshman year in college. My freshman year in college is the first time I ever sent an email. So from there till now, I'm in my mid-40s now, to see how quickly technology has changed, kind of like breakneck pace. That's what they literally mean. It's like moving so fast, you like have whiplash. And now it's just crazy that I'm recording this and communicating with you, and you may be watching or listening on a phone that we carry around in our pockets. And I'm not here to memorialize or wax nostalgic about technology and the good old days. It doesn't matter, because this is the day that we live in. I want you to think about how ridiculous it would sound if I told you that I ran my business today as a consultant, as a marketing agency owner, as an online educator, as a speaker. I want you to think about how ridiculous it would sound if I told you that I refuse to use email, I refuse to use the digital phone, a smartphone, and I still corresponded with my clients via typewriter and letter and physical mail. You would probably think I've got a few screws loose, or I need to really kind of like up my game or get with the times. And part of you might think that's actually really cool because it's counterculture, but that's not actually what I'm talking about here. I want you to think about how wasteful I would be with my work week, how much time I'd be spending literally taking envelopes of letters to my clients and walking to the post office, spending money on the postage, sending it to them giving it 3 to 5 days later, how wasteful and inefficient that would be. Well, that's exactly what it's going to feel like for many of us to our clients if we choose to work the way that we've been working and we don't embrace this new technology. Right. So I mentioned before that there's an opportunity here. There's an opportunity for you if you navigate this well and intentionally, generate even more business to prove yourself more valuable in the market if you think through how to embrace this technology. Again, it's not, we had after COVID the Great Resignation, but now we're going to have this great replacement of people, of human capital, not just by AI tools, but by human beings who know how to use these AI tools. Another example, understand that content creation is one of the biggest chores for people who run a business, especially solopreneurs. If you're a creative professional, you're a coach or consultant, you got to do a lot of marketing, a lot of social media, a lot of content. It can be a chore, right? And that is one of the big hurdles that I've seen so many people run up into and bump up against. Copywriting. It's a valuable skill. I've gone on record many times and said the most valuable skill I learned to grow my business was copywriting. I consider myself a strong copywriter, and yet I can now go into a tool like ChatGPT and use it as an intern to write copy for me or repurpose stuff like this episode. This video, this podcast. I can take this transcript, throw it into an AI tool like Descript, or just get it outright transcribed at rev.com or something like that, or otter.ai. I can throw that transcript into ChatGPT and ask it to summarize this entire episode, and it'll pump out notes that I can use in the description of this episode. Why would I pay somebody $50, $100, $200? In some instances in the past, I've paid writers up to $500 a month to do that for me. Why would I do that if I can have AI tools do this in just a few minutes without any brain power? And that is really the other side of AI that we're not thinking about, or many of us are not thinking about. It's not just saving you time, it's saving you brain power, it's saving you energy. If you are a creative professional, you understand how tiring it can be to consistently be thinking about new solutions or sorting through information and sorting through this stuff. And again, I'm not here to argue whether it's right or wrong or not. What I am saying is that somebody else is doing this and you're not, and they're going to pump out content way faster than you. They're going to have greater velocity and therefore add more value. I don't think my audience cares. I don't think you're going to care that AI wrote the show notes for this episode. I think what you're going to care about is that it's there, informative, it's valuable, it's insightful. It keeps track of what I say in case you don't want to listen to this whole recording again. If you want to go back and what were the highlights that Mike shared there? I want to go back and just read them. In fact, my business for our marketing agency, my boutique marketing agency, has actually grown in the last 6 months. I've been able to take on more clients because of the tools that we use to quickly produce what we need. Now, they still have human eyes on them. Everything passes through my desk, right? I've got to make strategic decisions alongside my clients. There's a human element. But that's what I mean. There's an opportunity for you to reposition yourself if you'll use these tools and then use whatever creative energy and bandwidth you have to really add value to your client. Whereas in the past, I'd be spending 15, 20 hours a week writing copy for a client. If I can farm this out to one of our other copywriters who's trained on how to use AI tools, they're still really good writers to begin with, and they can create stuff quicker, and then we can repurpose that stuff, like I just said in these show notes or whatnot. It doesn't get more results, because what really matters? What matters is that you hit the market with the value that you want to bring in as many different ways as possible so that it's digestible. I just had somebody share this with me, comment on a previous episode on my YouTube channel right here. And he said, finally, I found a way to consume your content. What he meant was that audio podcasts weren't doing it for him. Instagram wasn't doing it for him. I don't post about stuff on the podcast and my YouTube channel here on Instagram very much. And he certainly didn't want to read my book. But now that I'm using these AI tools, edit these videos, transcribe them, get them on my podcast, break them down into emails, I'm hitting the market and I'm able to add the value that I really want to my audience, right? So we've got to embrace this. And if you have been stuck in a creative role, this is an opportunity for you to really start to think about what you can do from a strategic perspective to offer to clients into the market. I always used to say this, and I still believe this is true. It's better to be paid for your brains than for your hands. It's Better to be paid for what you know and how you see things than for you to do the actual work. Now, you may beg to differ. You may say, Mike, no, I'm going to die on this hill. I'm going to write. I'm going to create. I'm going to draw. I'm going to paint. And I totally get that. I totally understand that. I really do. I grew up taking Mrs. Horvath's class, and I liked it because it was fun. But what I really wanted to do when I grew up was draw comic books. Not many people know that. I want to draw Marvel comic books. I love Batman too, right? And my mom took me to the comic book conventions in New York City. I grew up in New Jersey. We went right across the river. She'd take me to the Javits Center. And once a year, and I'd go to Comic Con, the early days of Comic Con, before it is what it is now. And I actually drew a couple of pages of comic books. She bought all the material for me. I had an artist's desk in my room, and I drew panels of comic books. And I took those pages, like these big comic book pages, they draw on bigger pages, and I went to Comic-Con and I tried to get hired as an artist. And I will never forget Frank Miller, one of the greatest names of all time in comic book lore. I created RoboCop, 300, that movie about the Spartans, so many other things, great, some of the great and legendary Batman books. And he looked at my drawings and he said, hey buddy, these are really good. You're going to need to work on anatomy and perspective. And he gave me some really good feedback on what to do with my drawings. I didn't end up pursuing that career. I realized I was a lot less patient for art than what was necessary. I just wanted to create it. Wished I could just wave a magic wand and see what I see. And for many of us and for many people out there, that's what AI tools are going to make possible now. We have people who are not quote unquote musicians making music. Whether you believe that's right or not, it's besides the point. It's just that's my point. It's happening. So don't waste any more time and energy lamenting that it's happening. You can fight for what you stand for, right? I completely get that. But I want you to understand that if you're here running a business, I want to encourage you to see things from the point of view of your client. When we think about human beings and what these tools may replace, think about human beings. We are slow, we're prone to error, and we're expensive. And if you really look at your clients who are business owners, I know you yourself may also be a business owner, but I would really think about this because this channel is about building a business. If we look at our clients, those are three very, very, very bad things, right? And anytime a business needs to save money, they're going to cut whoever they can, especially if they are in non-revenue generating roles. I will say that again. Whether it's a big company, corporation, or a small business, when they feel the financial crunch, roles they get rid of are the non-revenue generating roles. So what you want to do is you want to tie yourself to strategy or deliverables that make your clients money. If you do that, you will stay in the game. So I've thrown a lot out here at you. I know that AI can get overwhelming. I've had to shut off a couple of recommended videos on my YouTube account because it's just flooding me. The algorithm just keeps feeding me AI stuff. And I'll honestly say it's a little disorienting. There's too much happening. I don't need to know all of this. Just this past week, as of this recording, Apple announced new technology, these new goggles that I forget exactly what they call it. But they're going to hit the market in early 2024. And you're going to be able to work at your workstation. They're $3,500 for these glasses, by the way. And you're not just going to see your monitors. You're going to still be able to see through them. Think maybe the old school Google Glass, but a lot better. That's the idea. And I think these are going to become normal. And the inputs that we use on our computer are going to change. I'm picking up this QWERTY keyboard. Only you on YouTube can see me picking this up. This is my wireless Apple keyboard. And these glasses are going to get rid of, to some degree, this keyboard. We're not going to really need it to input and control anymore. We're not going to need it as much to tell our device what we really want it to do. And that's not going to stop. It's just going to keep continuing to grow. I want to encourage you here, embrace technology to the point you can to increase your productivity. Do not try to use a fax machine and a typewriter in a smartphone world. Number 2, reposition yourself to be of greater value to your clients. And this is an opportunity to reposition yourself as a strategist and a consultant rather than somebody who just does deliverables. It's better to be paid for your brains than for your hands. The tools are going to make the hands-on work a lot easier. So I just want to encourage you in all that. Don't freak out. I know everyone goes through this kind of freak out phase, and I did too. But I'm embracing it. I'm using it. I'm using the technology that's readily available to me in order to show up for the audience that I have and the audience that I want to continue to build and grow. That's the only thing you and I can control. We cannot control whether governments come in and regulate this stuff. We cannot control what this technology does. We can't even control the fact that some of this technology takes our own stuff, our own creative work, and puts it out there for everybody to see. What I can control is that I keep showing up, adding value, showing my value, being eager to demonstrate my value, and creating opportunities for people to work with me because they realize there's something that I still carry that is more valuable than the AI version of Mike Kim, and the same goes for you. If you liked this episode, if you're watching on YouTube, would love it if you would hit like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought about this content. If you're listening on the podcast, audio only, thank you for tuning in. If this episode was of value to you, I'd love it if you would share this podcast episode with somebody. If you want to screenshot it and just post on Instagram, just tag me at Mike Kim. Let me know. I'll reshare it to my audience, and I'll thank you for tuning in. And if you're interested in getting some insight, further insight into how to use AI, some of the things that I'm doing, right, more than I can explain in one session here, go to mikekim.com/AI crash course. I'll put that link in the description of both the YouTube video and the podcast, and use the code FUJI. FUJI. That's right. My dog's name, Fuji. Use the code FUJI. It'll take $60 off of that program. It is a series of teaching videos on what I do with AI, and it includes my entire AI ChatGPT and Bard guide that I created with my buddy Robbie Fowler. You can get all that for like $37. Okay, so go to mikekim.com/AI crash course. Use the code FUJI, and it'll knock a ton of money off. And Robbie and I continually do live meetups online, of course, with people who've bought that program. We're consistently updating that product. So everything I'm using in my business, we're throwing into there in real time so that people, our readers, our members, can learn how to apply it to their own needs, because we're on the forefront of this. We're doing it every day. Okay? All right. Till next time, live your message, love your work, leave your mark on the world, and I'll see you back here for the next episode.